Okay, welcome everyone. As we learn Ili Nishmas, Yaakov Chaim and Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram and Shmuel HaKohen, by Baruch Ian, by Hakos Hatov to Rav and the Zuma family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren, by Yaakov Imansky, Abe Spry from Nachas from children and grandchildren, Ed Salah from London, Joshua Rosenberg, a virtual Talmud, and by Shalom Fogel, Ili Nishmas, Yaakov Zev ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tibia Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zev. We're on the very top of Kuf Nun Beis Amud Aleph. Itmar, Matna Shchimera, a gift of a Shchimera, but now here it gets more complicated. It's a gift of a Shchimera, but Shekosa Bakinyan. There was also recorded that they did a kinyan. In other words, the dying man took a handkerchief from someone to be mizaket to Dr. Black. So he made a statement, and there was a kinyan written. So what's going on? Beirav mishmei derav imrei arkevei atrei richshei. What he did is he rode Dr. Black on two swift horses. In other words, he gave him double power. While Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, in such a case, lo yadana may odinba. I don't know what to judge. He might have made it worse for Dr. Black. I don't know what to judge in such a case. So the Gemara explains what's going on over here. Beirav, Mishrei Derav Imrei, the Academy of Rav, said in the name of Rav, Arkavei Atrei Richshei, he gave him two powers. What are the two powers? Thank you. What were the two powers? What were the two powers? Harihi Kamatnas Bari, since he made the kinyan, it has the strength of a gift of a healthy man, and Kamatnas Shchimera, and it also, since he made a deathbed bequest, it's like a Shchimera. What are the two powers that he has? Harihi Kamatnas Bari, it's like, because he made a kinyan, it's like a healthy man that even if he gets better and he gave away everything, he doesn't get it back. Shem Amad Eina Chayzer, even though he gave away everything, and normally by a Matna Shchimera, when you give away everything, you get it back. But since he made a kinyan, even if he gets better, he doesn't get anything back. While Harihi Kamatnas Shchimera, now if you remember, if it's an oral loan, you don't have an apparatus to give away an oral loan to someone. He can't say, my oral loan that Shalom owes me, I'm giving to Dr. Black. He can't do that. But a Shchimera can. Hari Kamatna Shchimera Shim Amar Halva Osoi Leploni, that the money owed to me should go to Shalom, to Dr. Black. Halva Osoi the din is Shemama Halva Osoi Leploni, Halva Osoi Leploni. The loan taka goes to Dr. Black. So, in other words, it has the power of a Matnas Bari and the power of a Matnas Shchimera. Shmuel has a completely different view of this. Shmuel said if he recorded a transaction in a shtar, perhaps he wants it to be effective through the kinyan of the shtar when he dies. And there's no shtar after Misa. And then Dr. Black is not going to get anything. I don't know what to judge over here. What's the problem? Maybe he only wanted to finalize this with the shtar when he dies. Ve'ein shtar lachamisa, and you can't do a shtar after, because once a person's dead, he can't affect the kinyan with a shtar. And then Dr. Block wouldn't be able to wrest it away from the ears. So now we have the two positions of Rav and Shmuel, and now the Gemara says we learned just the opposite. V'rami de Rav ad Rav, we have a contradiction Rav on Rav, u'de Shmuel ad Shmuel, and a contradiction of Shmuel on Shmuel. The Shalach Rabin Mishmei de Rabbi Avo, for Rabin sent in the name of Rabbi Avo, have a yodei sheshalach Rabbi Lazar the Geila, that Rabbi Lazar sent to the diaspora Mishum Rabbeinu. In this case, Rabbeinu is Rav. Sometimes Rabbeinu is Rebbe, but here it's Rav. He sent in the name of Rav. Shchim mei Rasha Amar Kisvu Utunu Mono Leploni. Write and deliver a mana to Pliny, umeis, and he dies. Ein kaisvin v'noisnin. We don't write and give it. Why? Because maybe he only wanted to do it with a shtar. Shemalei nosnul la'aknoisel b'shtar ve'ein shtar lachamisa. Now Rav earlier said that in such a case, arkavei ashtei richshei, that we give him both powers. And here he says it doesn't work because maybe he wanted to do it with a shtar. V'am Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, excuse me, V'am Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Hilchas HaKaisvim V'naisnim, that we write it and we deliver it. While over here Shmuel said, I don't know what to do in such a case. So what's going on over here? So Kasha the Rav ad Rav, it's Kasha Rav and Rav, and Kasha the Shmuel ad Shmuel. Now there is a glaring difference, because in the first case a kinyan was made. So the Gemara says the Rav ad Rav like Kasha had economy. In the first case, he made a kinyan of Chalipin. As we said, he made a kinyan of Chalipin with Gedalia, that he should be zeichen it for Dr. Black. In this case, the second case, it says Kosovo v'nasnu, write it and deliver it. He didn't make a kinyan. The Shmuel is also like Kasha. Why? Because here it's talking about, why does he say that it's okay over here? Because there's indication b'miyafa es koichai, that when he said Kosovo v'nasnu, it was only to make it stronger. He wanted it to be the deathbed request of Shchib Meirah, just he wanted it to be stronger with a record. So now the Gemara says, Yosef Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak achorei de Rava. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was sitting behind Rava. The Yosef Rava kamei de Rav Nachman. And Rava was sitting in front of Rav Nachman. And Kaboy Minei Rava asked Rav Nachman, Mi amar Shmuel shemalei gomer lachnoisei ela b'shtar. Was Shmuel worried that maybe he only meant to affect it with the shtar? Ve'ein shtar lachamisa. I v'am Rabbi Yehuda amar Shmuel shchib me'rasha kosav kol nechosav lacherim. If he writes all his property to others, afal pi shekonu miyadai, even though he made a kinyan, and even though he made a kinyan, amad chayzer. And even though he made a kinyan, if he gets better, it comes back to him, because we know that it was mitzvah only machmas misa. But you see that we don't say that we're worried that he wanted to transfer it through a shtar, and she'ein shtar achamisa. Says the Gemara, the reason why, if he doesn't die, he gets it back even though a kinyan was made, now, but he said, you see, that here Shmuel is not worried. If he dies, we say he gets it. He's not worried that maybe he wanted to transfer it only with the shtar. He made with his hand. And Rava was silent. So what did he make with his hand? What was that about? Kikam Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak l'Rava. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said to Rava, he made with his hand. What did he make? My achvilach. Amalei, he said, no, there it's talking about where he made it clear that the kinyan, the writing, was only b'miyafa eskaycha, it was only to strengthen it. So now, what does it mean to strengthen it? How do you know that it's just to strengthen it? Heichi dami b'miyafa eskaycha, Amar Rav Chisda, the kanina minei, and we're doing this acquisition, moisef al matan todah, in addition to the gift of the Shchibmeira, in addition to the bequest. So then you don't have to worry, because he's clearly making a deathbed bequest. Now, Pshita, Kasav Lezeh, he wrote it to one person, and then V'Kasav Lezeh, and then he wrote it to another person. For the Chatzkel's dying, he wrote it to Shalom, and then he wrote it to Marshall. So the Gemara says, Hainu d'chiyasa Rav Dimi Amar, that's what Rav Dimi said, Daitaki mevatelas daitaki. A last will and testament cancels the one before it. So it doesn't go to Shalom, it goes to Marshall. Don't worry, Marshall, it was only chicken wings.
Too with barbecue sauce.
No barbecue sauce. Now, Chasav v'zicha lezeh, but if he wrote it to Shalom and made a kinyan, and then v'kasav l'zicha lezeh, and then he wrote it and made a kinyan to Marshall, Rav Amarishin Kana, Rav says Shalom gets it, because once he's mazaket to him, that's it. And Shmuel says the second one is Kana. Now what? Why? So the Gemara explains. Rav Amarishin Kana. Rav says the first one is Kana. Why? Because Harihi Kamatnas Bari. Since he's mazaket to him, it's like the gift of a healthy man. And once he gives him a gift, he can't take it back. Shmuel Amasheni Kana. Harihi Kamatnas Shchibmeira. He says that it's like a gift of a dying man. A gift of a dying man, he could retract. Shaila is how does Shmuel learn that the kinyan, he says that the kinyan doesn't take it out of the status of a dead man's bequest. So the Gemara says, they already argued about this once before. The gift of a shchibmeira, where it was written in it a kinyan. So the Gemara says tzricha. They have to argue twice. Di'i itmar baha ka'amar Rav. Their Rav says that what he gave to Shalom can't be reneged mishum dekonomine, because they actually did a kinyan. Where they actually did a kinyan, there you can't renege. Aval Baha, where there was no kinyan, it just says, well, in the second case, it says, so what is Kasav Ba Kinyan? One second, what is it? The first case is Zicha Lezeh. So what does Zicha Lezeh mean? So the Rashbam says, in the first case, he said it should go to Shalom, and he wrote it in a shtar. And then he gave it to Marshall and wrote it in a shtar. In the second case, he did it with Shalom, and he made a kinyan. So the Gemara says, that you can't back out once he made a kinyan with Shalom, Mishum Dekanamine, because he actually made a kinyan. Aval Baha, but where it was written in the shtar, and he gave him the shtar, the loy kanamine, where they didn't do a kinyan, Ema Maidale Shmuel, that it's like a regular gift of a shchimera, which you could retract. And if it only said the case of the shtar, Shmuel, because there were no kinyan. Now this was the version in Surah. Surah Masnahachi. In Surah they taught it in this version. But Pumpadisa Masnahachi. In Pumpadisa they taught Amar Reb Yirmiyah Ba'aba Sholchu Le Mibei Rav L'Shmuel. They sent from the academy Rav to Shmuel Yalamdeinu Rabbeinu Shkiv Meirash Kosav Kol Mechosav Lachem. He wrote everything to others. Vikanu Miyadai, and they made a transaction. Right, so he wrote everything, and they made a transaction. In other words, they made a kinyan sudar, right? Mao. So again, Mao means, can he retract, even though a kinyan was made, and give it to someone else? Shalach lo, so he sent to them, Ein achar kinyan klum. Once they made a kinyan is strong, a kinyan makes it like a matnas bari, and you can't retract anymore. Now, tomorrow we're going to widen the scope of this question, but we'll stop now over
Rabbi,
here. Yes.
I just came from the hospital. Could you have me in mind?
What's your name?
Moshe Yitzhak Alevi ben Nechama.
Moshe Yitzchak Alevi ben Nechama. You should continue to have good health, and you should live to greet the Mashiach.
Amen. Come at him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop making those doctors richer.